Jamie sat on his bed, contemplating the future. Sometimes, this activity scared him a lot, as the future was unknown to him. He could imagine himself as anything, but was there a guarantee that he wouldn't end up like many of his acquaintances who grew up in the same orphanage? Jamie tried to believe that something big was waiting for him. It hurt him to think that he might end up like his parents, who were willing to do anything for a bottle of cheap alcohol during their lifetimes. Jamie was only 7 years old when he ended up in the orphanage. At first, it was hard, lots of unfamiliar people, aggression from other residents, and not understanding what was going on around him. It took a long time to get used to it all. Fortunately, Jamie, despite his young age, managed to cope with his emotions and adapt to life in the orphanage. Getting used to the idea that he was an orphan, the boy was able to move on, stopped closing himself off, and avoided everyone, whether they wished him well or not. Jamie started making friends who taught him not to let anyone bully him. Soon, this rule became a habit. Jamie never got into conflicts for no reason. He was thoughtful and fair, tried to defend those who couldn't defend themselves, did well in school, and never lost hope that things would change someday. Watching children from normal families, Jamie often thought about what his fate would be if his parents hadn't turned to the bottle. So many opportunities and joyful moments could have been. These thoughts upset him because he couldn't dwell on them forever. Returning to harsh reality, Jamie felt a painful ache in his chest. He tried to ignore this feeling, knowing that these frustrations wouldn't change anything. Jamie wasn't a foolish child. He understood perfectly well that he wouldn't achieve anything without doing absolutely nothing. He tried to study well, did all his homework, participated in class, and studied additional information when possible. His teachers loved him. Classmates, though sometimes considering him a nerd, said he would achieve a lot in life. Even in high school, Jamie remained the student whose notes everyone copied. He never refused, understanding that not everyone found studying easy. However, he didn't allow others to cross personal boundaries and become too arrogant. Many acquaintances had warm feelings towards him. There aren't many kind people around. Many of Jamie's acquaintances wanted to become successful people in business. Jamie, however, didn't pursue such goals. As a child, when his parents got drunk and behaved abominably towards their own child, Jamie sought solace in animals. He had a black cat, whom Jamie loved with all his heart. Gary, as he was called, was with him during the toughest times with his parents. Unfortunately, the four-legged friend fell ill. With each passing day, Gary's condition worsened, and Jamie couldn't help him in any way. Naturally, his parents wouldn't take the cat to a special doctor. They were always drunk and could only think about the next drink. Gary passed away. This boy, though small, understood why the animal left him. It was hard to cope with the loss, especially since his mom and dad often reminded him of it. And then they died themselves, leaving nothing to their son, as these people didn't even have their own home. Jamie didn't understand what had happened, he just found himself in the orphanage one day. That's why Jamie decided to become a veterinarian. He was eager to help animals and was striving for it. For a while, some of the residents laughed at him, but then they respected him. Did Jamie look forward to the day of leaving the orphanage? Yes, definitely. It wasn't so much about wanting to say goodbye to life in this place as it was about wanting to grow up, learn to be completely independent, and change what he didn't like. After graduating, he could do what he wanted, finally go to university, and start his path to his dream to become an excellent veterinarian and eventually open his own veterinary clinic. "Aren't you scared?" someone asked from the residents, who still had 2 years left until graduation. To be honest, I'm even scared to imagine what awaits me ahead. It's not sugar here either, but at least everything is stable. I know where I'll wake up and where I'll go to eat, he reasoned. Honestly, I'm not scared at all. There's still so much in life for me, but you can't be afraid of it. You just have to live, and that's it. That's the beauty of it all. Perhaps you're right. Jamie was excited when he graduated from the orphanage. The unknown lay ahead of him, but it didn't scare him, rather, it amused him. The guy was eager to start university, but there was still a whole summer before the first class. Jamie was looking forward to it. He spent all 3 months with his old friend, who was also a resident of the same orphanage. They had fun, talked a lot about the future and the past. The guy knew that he had many happy days and nights ahead of him, and that made him smile. The summer flew by quickly. The guy spent all 3 months with his friend, and now he could finally start the process of getting his own place. The apartment wasn't given to him right away. He had to wait a bit. However, Jamie wasn't upset. He understood perfectly well that some people were given accommodation over a longer period. So these 90-plus days didn't seem too long to him. Of course, calling the apartment fantastic was difficult, but that was to be expected. In any case, it was better than wandering the streets in search of a place to stay. It was unusual for the guy at first. He was used to being in a room with several people, and now there was no one nearby, just bare walls and not-so-tasty breakfasts. Classes at the university began. To say that Jamie was happy is an understatement. He didn't care about any entertainment or anything else. The guy didn't lift his head, focusing on every line of the textbooks issued. He was liked by the professors. A hard-working young man who is approachable, respects others, and always prepares for classes. They saw him as a promising student who would definitely succeed in life. The guy loved studying. He always did his assignments in school because he loved gaining knowledge. And in university, his enthusiasm increased several times over. If before starting his studies Jamie had some doubts about what he was going to do in the future, now he clearly understood that he had chosen the right path, which he wouldn't exchange for anything else. Veterinary science made him incredibly happy. Just the thought that soon he would be able to help animals in need gave him the strength to keep going when it seemed like tiredness had permanently knocked him down. Jamie liked absolutely all the subjects he studied. It was during these classes that the guy met Judy. The girl was his classmate. At first, the guy didn't even notice her because he was immersed in his studies. Judy, however, immediately noticed him. She followed the guy in the hopes that he would finally make the first move. However, this didn't happen until halfway through the second year. The girl seemed invisible to him. Everything changed one winter evening. Then the students organized a party, which Jamie wasn't planning to attend. He planned to stay home and review his notes, as the exam session was about to start in a few days. The silence in which Jamie was studying was interrupted by a phone call. Without looking at the screen, the young man understood who was calling him. "Joe, what do you want again?" "I already helped you with the essay," the guy said tiredly, his eyes not leaving the textbook. "Have you been told that you've become rude lately?" came the friend's voice. "Yeah, I've been told." "So what do you want?" "I wanted to invite you to the party. All our friends will be there, and you should come too." "No, thanks a lot, but I think I'll pass." "Come on, take a break. I have something to offer you. Remember, I had an old textbook that you really liked, but I said it was my dad's?" "Suppose," the young man replied interestedly. "How about reading it? I could lend you that book." "Just come over and pick it up if you want," Joe said persuasively. "You know how to convince, I can't deny that." "All right, I'll stop by for a couple of minutes." To be honest, Jamie agreed not because of the book. Subconsciously, the young man understood that he needed to take a break, but he didn't want to admit it. Perhaps if it weren't for his friend's call, he would still be sitting at the table, reviewing his notes for the 100th time. Gathering his things, the guy took his wallet, which didn't have much money, and went out onto the street. Fortunately, the minibus arrived fairly quickly, so he didn't have to freeze outside for long. After about 20 minutes, Jamie was in the right place. The party was held at Joe's apartment. It was a new residential complex. The walls of the apartments weren't very thick, so the guy couldn't understand how his friend's neighbors put up with him. However, he didn't find an answer to this question. The apartment looked good. This surprised the young man. He expected to see empty alcohol bottles everywhere and the like. "Hey, student," the guy said with a cheerful smile. "Hi. How's life?" Jamie asked. "Pretty good." "All right, come on in. The main action is in the living room." "Maybe you could give me the book first?" "I kinda came for that." "What's the key word?" "Kinda." "You're a joker." "Come on in. I'll give it to you in about 15 minutes. Jamie followed into the living room. Dozens of familiar faces caught his eye right away. The rest of the people he either saw for the first time or didn't know well. At first, the guy wanted to leave home quickly because nothing he would consider fun seemed to be happening. However, after staying for a while, Jamie himself didn't realize how he got drawn into what was going on. The atmosphere of fun engulfed him. 2 hours later, the guy suddenly realized he had stayed too long. It was time to go home to review a couple more topics before the exam session. Taking the book from Joe, the young man went downstairs. Near the entrance, he noticed a girl whose face seemed familiar. "Hi," she greeted shyly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Oh, hi. Sorry, I didn't recognize you at first," Jamie replied, looking at the fluffy bundle in the classmate's hands. "It's okay, it's dark, right? What are you doing sitting outside? Aren't you cold?" The guy approached closer. "Not at all. I wanted to go up, but I found a kitten here. I can't leave him. He's freezing. But I can't take him to my apartment either. What if someone's allergic? So, I'm keeping him warm. I'm trying to figure out what to do with him," Judy explained. "Wow, can I see him?" "Of course." The girl handed him the black kitten. "So small." "Yeah, that's why I'm worried. You can't just leave him on the street. He probably won't survive. It breaks my heart to think about it." The classmate wiped away a tear from her cheek. "Hey, what's wrong? Don't cry, we'll figure something out. What are we going to do?" "I can't take him home. I live with my younger sister and grandmother. One has allergies, and the other can't stand animals." Jamie hesitated for a moment. Memories flashed through his mind. Here's the black cat cuddling up to him after another argument between his parents. The boy hugs his pet and strokes its soft fur while sitting on the green grass. The same boy tries to bathe a cat that managed to get dirty somewhere. Gary's image hadn't visited the young man in a long time. Sometimes he thought about adopting a cat or a dog, but always put it off. Perhaps Jamie was just afraid of getting attached to another animal. However, he simply couldn't leave this kitten, so similar to Gary. He would never forgive himself for that. "Let me take him. I think he'll like it with me." The girl wiped away her tears and looked at the guy in surprise, who was gently stroking the kitten. "Really? You have no idea how grateful I'll be. No need to thank me. I want this too. It's very kind of you to care so much about a kitten you found on the street just a few minutes or hours ago. I feel sorry for all animals. They're not to blame for people's irresponsibility. Will you come with me? You can see where he'll live. Can I? I mean, I don't want to embarrass you. It probably won't be very convenient. It's okay, I live alone, so your presence won't bother me at all. Well, if that's the case, then let's go. I'm all for it. The young people got up and headed to the bus stop. What will you name him? Judy asked, looking at the kitten. Jamie pondered. His mind was blank, nothing suitable came to mind. I don't even know. Any suggestions? That's a tough question. How about Lenny? The girl suggested. The young man smirked. Lenny? Why? I don't know, shrugged the classmate. I just like Lenny. All right, as you wish. It's a funny name. The two reached Jamie's apartment. They didn't notice how quickly time passed. Deciding to hang out together for an hour or two, the classmates got talking and only realized the time when it was around 3 in the morning. After that day, the young people started to communicate more. At first, it was just regular friendly conversation that didn't cross any boundaries. Sometimes, very rarely, Judy came to Jamie's place to visit the kitten. He already felt at home, jumping, running, and playing. By the end of the second year, they started spending even more time together. That summer, they realized they felt something more for each other than just liking. At first, Jamie was afraid to confess his feelings to her. He didn't want to ruin the friendship they had formed over time. However, hiding his feelings for long was impossible. One day, the two were at his apartment, having sparkling wine. Perhaps it was the alcohol that loosened their tongues, because that evening they finally confessed to each other. Thus began their relationship, which brought Jamie a lot of happiness. It was difficult for him to come to terms with the idea of letting someone get so close to him. However, despite his fears, the bonding happened so quickly and subtly that he didn't even notice it. The young people understood each other without words. Even before their relationship, they spent a lot of time together, but now they practically moved in together to avoid being apart for long. The two also loved Lenny with all their hearts, jokingly calling him their child. However, even the most perfect relationships sometimes come to an end. Jamie and Judy really tried to fix everything, but soon realized there was nothing left to mend. They parted without scandals and hysterics. Calmly. However, the guy couldn't cope with his emotions. Dealing with the breakup was incredibly difficult for him. Lenny stayed with him because the girl couldn't take him with her. The young man was glad about it. He had grown accustomed to the kitten and didn't want to give him up. Jamie graduated from university. He planned to find a job, but because he was upset about the breakup, he missed all the good opportunities he had. He was unsure what to do next. He went to interviews but couldn't find anything suitable. The guy had never felt so lost before. He didn't have many close friends, and the girl he still loved had found someone else. His head was spinning from all this, making it hard for him to think clearly. The only thing that calmed him down was Lenny, who seemed to sense his owner's sadness. Perhaps the young man would have continued staring out the window at the city where he felt like a stranger. However, everything changed when Jamie received a call from the university. They called several times. He didn't pick up the first 2 times. When he finally managed to call back, he heard a familiar voice. It was his former university advisor. "Hello, Jamie. Could you come to the university? We have an offer for you." "You understand, I won't bother you with trifles," the man said seriously. Hello, Mr. Morty. When should I come? I have things to do, the young man lied. I understand you're busy. This concerns your work. You were a good student. It's tough for everyone to find a job now. I'd like to help you. Students like you are hard to find, explained the interlocutor. This news, to be honest, cheered Jamie up. He, of course, was going through a difficult time in his life, but he wouldn't refuse a job in his profession. Quickly getting ready, the young man went to the university. There, two professors awaited him, whom he liked the most during his studies. Jamie was terribly worried. He thought everything would go wrong again, as it had happened more than once. He started to calm down only when they started talking about the matter at hand. He trusted these people, so he began to regain composure, pushing away his worries. You'll make an excellent veterinarian. Even a fool would understand that. If we had the opportunity, we would have hired you at some urban veterinary clinic, one of the professors said. Yeah, that's for sure. But we don't have such an opportunity. However, there's another one. Are you ready for a change? Mr. Morty joined the conversation. I'm ready for anything right now. I'm tired of sitting at home. This is great. Do you want to go work from the university? What do you mean? Exactly that. You'll go to the village, they'll give you a house there. You'll work, treat animals. They need good specialists there, and you're the best we can offer. Thanks for the offer, but I need to think about it, the young man replied, already beginning to weigh all the pros and cons. Arriving home, Jamie once again began to ponder. He needed to think everything through carefully to avoid making a mistake. For several hours, he couldn't stop thinking about it, realizing how much depended on this decision. The weight of responsibility weighed heavily on him, and he was very afraid that he might just fail. He didn't want to let people down, as they were counting on him. There was nothing holding him back here now, but for some reason, he kept thinking. Maybe he wanted someone to stop him, but there was no such person. Honestly, even if he were to leave now, no one would be particularly upset. Jamie pondered everything until morning, and only with the sunrise did he realize that he was ready to embark on this journey, and whatever it was, he really wanted it. He wanted to be useful and significant. Early in the morning, Jamie went to the university. He announced that he was ready to go to the village and become a good veterinarian. Well, that's great. You'll work and you'll understand everything, the dean smiled. The next day, early in the morning, Jamie boarded a bus and headed to an unknown village. He was filled with emotions because he didn't know what awaited him. The only thing Jamie was told was that the head of the village would meet him at the bus stop in that village. Almost at every stop, he looked around, afraid to get off at the wrong one. And indeed, after 4 hours, he was there. He was met by a middle-aged man who kept wiping sweat from his forehead. It was spring outside, and it wasn't particularly hot, but perhaps because this man was nervous, droplets of sweat constantly collected under his cap. Hello, you must be Jamie? You were sent to us from the city. Yes, hello, I am indeed Jamie. And I'm Mr. Matthew. Well, you can just call me Matthew. That's what everyone calls me here, the man smiled kindly. Well, shall we get acquainted? Let's go, I'll show you your house and work. Jamie slowly followed Matthew, carefully examining the surroundings. It was quite unusual for Jamie. Despite the fact that it was lunchtime, there were almost no people in the village. Is it always this quiet here? Well, yes, we live peacefully here. You know, I've never been in such silence. Well, you'll get used to it. The man turned towards an abandoned house, with Jamie following him. Well, Jamie, Here's where you'll be living, he smiled. Here, the guy was surprised. Yes, but what's wrong? The house itself is very sturdy. You'll fix it up a bit, but it's free. Okay, thank you very much. Come on, throw your suitcases and let's go to the farm. I'll show you everything and introduce you to everyone. Jamie obediently opened the front door and threw his things on the couch. He didn't even walk around the house or look around to see what was there. And now the men were walking through the village, but now in the direction of the farm. Jamie was very nervous because he realized that this was his first job, and he didn't want to fall flat on his face. Soon, Jamie saw a large red building. That was the farm he was invited to work on. The guy was very surprised that such a large farm was located in such a small village. Interesting, where do so many people come from here if I haven't even seen so many houses in your village? Jamie asked the head of the village. Well, not only locals work here, many are outsiders and people from other villages. I see. And who does this farm belong to? It belongs to Teddy, a local businessman. 17 years ago, he decided to open a farm here. And, to be honest, no one believed in his idea then. But, as you can see, now it's one of the major enterprises in our region. Anyway, what can I tell you? Teddy's a great guy. He created this farm and gave people jobs. Well, you'll meet him yourself a little later. Say, how are the salaries here? The pay is good, enough to live on. Plus, you can take extra shifts. The more you work, the more you earn. It's like that everywhere. I see. Well, good to know. As the men approached the farm, it seemed bigger and bigger to Jamie. And finally, the doors opened before him. He saw the whole process from the inside. So, Jamie, meet Mr. Freddy, our veterinarian. You'll be his apprentice for now. Jamie shook Freddy's hand. Pleasure to meet you, I'm Jamie. Well, Jamie, I hope we'll work well together. I hope so too. All right, we'll talk later. Let's move on, I'll introduce you to the team, Matthew said. And they entered a huge room where women were pouring milk. Here's where everything happens. Look, they wash the barrels here, and here they pour and send the milk to the city. It's a very long process. Jamie immediately noticed a pretty girl who had been looking at him attentively ever since they entered the room. Meet Crystal. She's new here, been working just a couple of weeks. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Jamie. Matthew didn't let the young man stand still. He kept talking and trying to show him things. All right, let's head back. Freddy will show you what your job entails. Jamie tried to focus and quickly followed Matthew. Here, Freddy, I leave Jamie to you. Teach him everything he needs to know. And I have to go. Thank you, Matthew, for the exciting tour. Don't mention it. And Matthew did indeed leave, leaving Jamie on this farm. For now, almost nothing settled in his mind. There was simply too much information coming in, and his brain couldn't process it all. So by the end of the first day, Jamie didn't feel very good. He was so tired that he couldn't even imagine how he would unpack his things today. Well, Jamie, we worked well today. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, I'll go to my new place, unpack my things, and see how everything's arranged there. I've only been in the first room. Matthew rushed me so much that I just threw my suitcases and came straight here. Same old Jamie, Freddy laughed. It was spring outside, Jamie was returning home, and several times he scolded himself for wearing white sneakers that were now completely dirty. The guy walked through the village very slowly, looking at the houses that stood on all sides, and just admiring nature. This old shop, which stood on the hill, was a work of art. Interesting. It looked as if it came from a fairy tale. Painted in bright colors, with windows adorned with carvings. For a guy who had lived in the city all his life, these windows, which were closed with shutters, were something unusual. Jamie returned home and finally began to assess the situation sensibly. For example, the house only seemed dilapidated from the outside. Inside, it was not bad at all. There were plenty of bed linens left by the previous owner, or even a working TV that Jamie easily turned on. The TV somehow alleviated his loneliness. In principle, it was possible to live here. And so Jamie's work life began. Of course, sometimes he thought about how he would be in the city now, and he wouldn't have to go to the other end of the village for water, as there were only a few wells in this village, and they were located quite far from each other. But the guy was always an optimist and tried to find the good sides. Also, at work, he began talking to the girl, Crystal. It's unclear why, but he wanted to talk to her. He liked her as soon as he saw her. She was nothing like Dasha, whom he had dated before. She was kind of magical. Jamie got so immersed in village life that he literally knew everyone's problems within a month. And the main problem in the village was the lack of money. No, the salary they received from the farm was enough to live on. But if they wanted to buy something substantial, they had to go into debt. Jamie came here to work for just 1 year, but he didn't even notice how 2 flew by. This place became dear to him, and he didn't want to leave. The young man started dating Crystal, and literally within a year, they started living together. They went to work together and came back together. This life suited him completely. But one day, a disaster struck their village. It was night. Jamie woke up from hearing suspicious crackling. Looking out the window, he realized that there was a fire in the village. The sky was red, just as red as it was in childhood when Jamie still lived with his parents and the house next door caught fire. Crystal, wake up, something's burning, let's go see. The girl jumped out of bed and, throwing on a robe, rushed after Jamie. The farm where they worked was on fire. People were taking out the animals and trying to extinguish the fire somehow. The farm owner, Teddy, was holding his head. He just didn't know what to do. Plus, the firefighters were taking a long time to arrive. It was a terrible sight. People tried to help in any way they could, but more than half of the farm burned down. People sat on the ground and cried, realizing that they were left without work. Folks, I don't know what to do now, but rebuilding the farm will take years. I don't have that kind of money. You'll have to stay at home, maybe find another job. I understand everything, Teddy said quietly. People started talking among themselves. Many had nowhere to go. The farm was the place where they had worked all their conscious lives. The villagers dispersed only towards morning. Even Jamie was terribly upset that he hadn't mentioned Crystal, whose parents and grandparents also worked there. Jamie, I don't understand what to do now. So many people are left without work. I don't know, Crystal, you see, we don't even have any way to help Teddy. I understand, the girl lowered her eyes. You know, if there's any opportunity, we'll definitely take it, the young man reassured her. So people were left without work. Some went to the city, while others lived only on what they could grow in their gardens. And Crystal and Jamie were no exception. One day, when Jamie was digging a new area to plant potatoes, he hit something hard with his shovel. Crystal, come here. Come, you'll help me get something out, the young man shouted to his girlfriend, who was busy with cucumbers. Soon Crystal was by Jamie's side. Together, they began poking the shovels into what was underground. "I wonder what this is," she asked. "I don't know." "Okay, I'll bring a crowbar, and we'll lift it carefully." With a little effort, they pulled out a small metal box. "And what's this?" Crystal asked. "Crystal, I have no idea what this is either." "See the lock? We need to open it." Opening the box, the young people were speechless. "Jamie, do you see this too?" "I do," the young man said quietly. The box contained golden jewelry. There was a lot of it, and the diamonds sparkled with different colors in the sun. Even more questions arose. "And who is this woman who lived in this house?" "I don't know. They always said she was a thief." "Well, thief or not, we need this money now," Jamie smiled. "Am I right to think you're planning to rebuild the farm?" Crystal smiled. "Yes, Crystal, we need to rebuild the farm. So many people were left without work. And if we take the money and just leave, it wouldn't be fair. Jamie, I'm so proud of you. You're a real hero. You know, Crystal, when I came here, I felt like a lone wolf in the first week. I wanted to leave, but at the same time I understood that if I left here, I would let down my university, and everything was like that until I met you, or rather, until you noticed me." Tears welled up in Crystal's eyes. These words were important to her. She hugged Jamie, and they stood like that for several minutes. "So, let's go to Teddy. Let's go cheer him up that everything can still be saved." Teddy was overjoyed that the young people found a solution to his problem, but he also asked where these gold jewelry could have come from. "I think after the war, Leanne took the jewelry for herself." "Where did she take it from?" "Well, she took care of the general's wife. So either she was very grateful to her, or Leanne took it herself. Not a very good reputation was associated with her." "I understand. But that doesn't matter now. We need to turn in this gold and use the money to rebuild our farm. So many people are out of work." "Yes, you're absolutely right. I'm very grateful to you for being such good people. That you didn't just pass by my misfortune." Teddy was happy. "This is our common misfortune, don't say that. The whole village will help you, and everything will be fine. Thank you, guys. Others would have just gone to the city, but you're not like that." The man didn't know how to thank the young people. He stumbled over his words and even shed a tear. After some of the gold was turned in, construction began on the farm through Teddy's acquaintances. In addition to professional builders, the people who worked there also participated. They managed to build a new modern farm, clean and warm. And literally within 6 months, people were able to return to their jobs. Teddy made Jamie a co-owner, and now Jamie also receives a percentage of milk sales. Jamie's life has changed. Now they are building a large country house right in this village. He wants his family to have everything. Yes, the young man aspires to have a large family. Probably this indicates that he really missed it in childhood. Now he and Crystal only talk about children, but Jamie has already proposed to her. And he really hopes that Crystal will be the one he will live with for the rest of his life. He wants to believe in it so much. In general, Jamie decided not to return to the city. His meaning is in this village. But the most interesting thing is that when he came here, he never thought that he would fall in love with this place and stay here forever. Everything has changed so much, and now this village is his favorite and dearest place. After all, it's here that he found his happiness, it's here that he met his love. And he doesn't need anything else for happiness.